Okay, we'll begin with some breaking news coming in at this moment. India Today has managed to speak exclusively to the new Human Resource Development Minister, Prakash Javadekar. He's spoken to India Today. He said he is happy to receive the HRD Ministry and will work at providing education to every child. He added that he will go ahead after consulting outgoing HRD Minister Smriti Irani. Let's listen in to this exclusive conversation.
I have with me the new HRD Minister, Prakash Javadekar. Sir, first of all, congratulations. Now you were holding independent charge of environment. Now you've been thrust upon a ministry which is an extremely crucial ministry. What is your roadmap for this ministry?
I think everybody is connected to education because education is empowerment. Education is emancipation. And therefore, it's not only career. It gives you the skills. It gives you more than the values of life. And therefore, education is very important. And I have been working in the field for the last 40 years practically. I was part of student agitation during JP's movement with Vidyarthi Parishad. Then I was Senate member for 12 years in University of Pune. Then I was elected from graduate constituency to Maharashtra Legislative Council for 12 years. And during that period, I was also heading the Planning Commission, where our emphasis was on education. And here also in Parliament, I was member of a HRD committee when the crucial 10 legislations were discussed. And therefore, I have passion for this, and I basically believe that whatever Prime Minister decides, we have to enjoy our job.
Were you expecting it?
And we don't expect any department. We are all committed to do some good work when the opportunity we have got, people have given us. And therefore, we will do our best with consultation of all and with guidance of Prime Minister. We will achieve the goal to take India into a next leap where India can really we can achieve our optimum. That's the objective of we being in power, and therefore I'm very happy. So we will definitely take, and Smriti ji has also done many good things which we'll like to take forward. I'll talk to her, and Murli Manohar Joshi was Education Minister earlier. I'll consult all concerned, and even in other parties, and there are many NGOs who are doing very good work in education. Today the challenge is quality of education, and that's the thrust of Modi government.
So, sir, this HRD ministry has become a very hot seat given the kind of controversies and several instances surrounded when your predecessor Smriti Irani was at the power. How do you approach
Today I'm not going to make any political comment or anything like that. See, this is work which has been allotted by the Prime Minister, and everybody, any department, we do our duty dutifully. The earlier ministry which I headed was Environment and Forest, and you know what was the reputation earlier and how we have changed it. We took everybody into confidence and we made a progress, and that's the target.
No, that I know, because you were the only minister who was elevated in this most anticipated cabinet reshuffle.
See, this is not also a correct analogy. When Prime Minister decides, then that was a consequential thing. I don't see this as a specially chosen. No, I think everybody is a specially chosen because India is a specially chosen country.
One last question. There have been a lot of ramblings within the universities, be it Hyderabad or Allahabad or the JNU. How do you intend to deal with...
After taking stock of what is happened, what has actually is... So I'll take briefing from officers, I'll talk to concerned people, I'll consult, and then I'll come out with policy statement. It's not too early, I'm not in a hurry.
Okay, this was the new HRD Minister Prakash Javadekar with camera person Vinod Kumar Brijesh Pandey for India Today.
I think that last point that Prakash Javadekar mentioned is the most crucial. And I think that there is a subtle message for the outgoing HRD Minister. Let's quickly go across to consulting editor of India Today Group, Rajdeep Sardesai, who joins us this morning for his detailed analysis, which I'm sure a lot of us want to hear. And we've got the man who interviewed the new HRD Minister, Brijesh Pandey. He's also with us. Brijesh, I'll come across to you in just a short moment. Rajdeep, Prakash Javadekar says, I am not in a hurry. The reason why I pick this sentence out of his interview with Brajesh Pandey is that here lies a subtle message for Smriti Irani. Was she in a hurry? Too over-eager to make changes? Perhaps reflecting political immaturity also?
Look, I think it reflects the contrasting political styles. Prakash Javadekar is very much an old-style politician from Maharashtra, the kind who likes to be seen as accommodating, the kind who likes to believe that he has friends across parties. He is always, whenever you meet him, he has a smile on his face. He has built his political career on his relatively genial, inoffensive presence. I think that has been his strength, and that has worked for him in the present scenario to bring him into the HRD ministry. Smriti Irani, by her very nature, is, yes, you're right, a woman in a hurry. She's rambunctious. I don't think anyone could question Smriti's intent. I think the problem was with Smriti Irani's approach, because she ended up opening so many new frontiers and flanks and eventually confronting so many people that she kept making the headlines. And I think somewhere that eventually worked against her. No one doubts her communication skills, no one doubts her oratorial skills or her charisma. But I think in a ministry like HRD, where you have to work with vice chancellors, bureaucrats, principals, people from different parts of the country, because education is a state subject, you need to be seen to be this kind of accommodating politician, which is where I think you will now see a shift in emphasis between Smriti Irani and Prakash Javadekar. Having said that, let's be clear, Sanket, Prakash Javadekar is a hardcore BJP RSS loyalist. So the RSS, which has always wanted to have a greater say in the Ministry of HRD, will continue to have that, particularly on appointment. So it's not as if you will see some kind of a dramatic shift in those issues which many liberal or left voices have been concerned about, that education is being saffronized or institutions have appointments of people who are linked to the Sangh Parivar. That will continue with Mr. Javadekar. What you will find though is a difference in approach, and that's where Mr. Javadekkar's personality, in sharp contrast to that of Smriti Irani, will perhaps reflect in the fact that the HRD ministry will now be on the front pages of newspapers or in the headlines of primetime TV a little less often.
Absolutely. That's a very important point that Rajdeep is mentioning over there. Rajdeep, do stay on with us. We've got Brajesh Pandey also. Brajesh, do you think that this time around the message that has been sent out, don't be a lot in the headlines. Please deliver on your work. Look at all those people who are not in the headlines but were silently trying to deliver on their particular work. Even if they were in the headlines, that was primarily to do with their ministry, a non-controversial aspect of their ministry. Take for instance Mr. Suresh Prabhu. We've never heard any controversy surrounding Mr. Suresh Prabhu. And he also does not choose to remain too much in the limelight. He has not been touched. Do you think that this is a strong message to everyone under Modi, that talk less, work more?
Well, Sanket, I think I don't think so, Sanket, because, you know, I mean, if you, it's a very obvious deduction which we are doing, that, you know, just because she is controversial, she was outspoken, you know, that is the reason why there was a rap on her knuckles, because, you know, she was in constant fights with we heard her stories about how she got into arguments with vice chancellors and various others. But if you do a detailed study or analysis of who all are there in the Modi cabinet, you will find that there are far more controversial ministers who are there in the cabinet. So if what she got, what we can say, rapping on her knuckle is the real reason, is the controversy is the real reason why she was made to go, or why she was her portfolio was changed. I don't think so. The billion-dollar question would really be, Sanket, is as to exactly what led to the ouster of Smriti Irani. She was extremely close to the Prime Minister. She had a great equation with RSS, and, you know, one of the things which we have been seeing her being accused of in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, 2 years plus, is that, you know, she is furthering the agenda of Sangh Parivar. Now, why would anybody who is furthering the agenda of the Sangh Parivar is almost as, if not more controversial as several ministers who are in the Modi government? If you remember Giriraj Singh or even Mahesh Sharma, about the kind of statement he made, be it Dadri or be it related to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who is such a revered figure in India. So I don't buy this argument that, you know, just because she was controversial, she was shown the door, because there are a lot many more controversial ministers in the Modi government. The billion-dollar question is, what exactly led to the ouster?
No, so do we know this?
Nobody knows for sure. At least I don't know for sure as to what led.
What are you hearing from?
Nobody knows what led.
What are you hearing
exactly
within
led
the
to her
BJP?
ouster?
How can this be? How can this be that the most important minister handling a very important portfolio has been asked to go somewhere else? Has been asked to go to the textiles ministry. But we by no means, by the way, are trying to ridicule something like the textiles ministry. It's also an important portfolio. But Rajdeep, would you like to take that? What exactly could have gone wrong? Because Rajesh's analysis over here is that there are other controversial ministers also who have not been shown the door. Then what could have gone wrong?
Look, I think there are 2 or 3 reasons. You know, there are 2 or 3 reasons. I think there is, even though Smriti Irani has a good relationship with the PMO as well as with a section of the Sangh, there are also those whom she has angered within the Sangh, within the government over these last 2 years, who have found her far too confrontational, perhaps abrasive, perhaps believe that you know, she's far too young to have been given such a big portfolio. Also, there is an element of misogyny. Let's be very clear. She was a woman who was making her way on the fast track, as you put it, woman in a hurry. Now, that can often offend in a patriarchal setup people who feel that Smriti's got far more than she deserves. So there is an element of that. And I think from time to time there were complaints that the PMO had received from not just outsiders or vice chancellors or IIT directors, but also from people within the system. So there is that explanation which is being offered. Number 2, this is where I believe let's not write off anyone, because there is every possibility that one reason why Smriti is being moved is that, who knows, in the next 6 months you have an important election in Uttar Pradesh. She may well be the star campaigner of the BJP or one of the star campaigners being asked to address several meetings across India's most populous state. Now, as HRD Minister, you would perhaps have less time to devote to full-time campaigning. But as Textile Minister, you may have that time. So while we are now writing off Smriti Irani and saying that she has been rapped on the knuckles or she has been ousted, who knows? You may well find Smriti Irani in another avatar a few months from now. I believe that there is, the Prime Minister still views her as a talented politician, as someone who deserves to be given more recognition by the party. And I can see Smriti Irani making some kind of a comeback. Just as an aside, Sanket, Prakash Javadekar 2 years ago in the month of June was losing his Rajya Sabha MPship. His term was coming to an end and he was planning to retire to Pune. Now, 2 years later, not only is he back as a Rajya Sabha MP, then a Minister of State for Environment, now he's the country's HRD Minister. So I wouldn't write off anyone, but I do believe that if there is any explanation, it lies in the fact that Smriti Irani did offend a few interest groups also within the wider Sangh Parivar, as well as influential educationists who had complained to the Prime Minister.
Absolutely. Rajdeep and Rajesh, do stay on with us, because here is a presentation that we have prepared based on the analysis that we have gathered from both our experts as well as our reporters who have given us ears to the ground perspective. What led, if this is seen as a demotion, that is, this is a rider, if this is for perception's sake being seen as a demotion, then what led to this particular demotion? Let's take a look at this presentation.
The biggest surprise in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's cabinet reshuffle. Smriti Irani, one of the most controversial ministers in Team Modi, dropped as the HRD Minister and moved to the low-profile Textiles Ministry. Smriti's loss turned out to be a big gain for Prakash Javadekar, who took over HRD Ministry. Surprisingly, PM had defended the former TV actress amid controversies that clearly divided the nation. No one had even got a hint of what lay ahead. Smriti's 2-year tenure in HRD was replete with controversies. Smriti, who lost elections to Congress scion Rahul Gandhi, was under immense attack after Dalit scholar Rohit Vemula snuffed out his life citing pressure from the right-wing groups. Then came the sedition row involving JNU students. Her educational qualifications remain under the scrutiny since she took charge. Smriti was also in the thick of storm after she recommended the sacking of 2 Central University VCs. She also drew flack for the move to wrench powers from the IIM administrators. Even the decisions to introduce Sanskrit in IITs and explore the possibility of separate canteens for vegetarians triggered massive row. Now the Prime Minister has entrusted Prakash Javadekar with the key HRD portfolio, whose proactive role in the climate change talks in Paris advanced India's prospects in the world order. His initiatives in Environment Ministry ensured rupees 10 lakh crore investment and a mega job bonanza. Behind the move is Prime Minister's interest to bring in a doer and performer in the HRD, than somebody who is incessantly involved in controversies. Despite the demotion, the corridors of power are abuzz that Smriti Irani may land a key role in Uttar Pradesh polls, where stakes are high for the BJP.
All right, so that was a presentation that we prepared on what could possibly be the reason for Smriti Irani's shift from the HRD ministry. Now, Rajdeep, you know, the point over here is, as you were mentioning, one, that she offended a lot of people in this zeal to prove herself. Often try to steamroll or railroad her decisions also.
You know, that's right. You know, I think, let's be clear. Smriti Irani was, you're right, I think at the start when you said she was a woman in a hurry. She wanted to bring a new education policy. She wanted to shake up the system. She would conduct several meetings with various educationists. She would go suddenly and visit a campus. She wanted to do all that. But as we saw both in the Hyderabad Central University campus row and in the JNU row, she got herself into confrontational situations that became front page stories. Now, she got carried away, some would say, by the cheerleaders on social media and outside who were saying, go ahead, we support you, Smriti. But by doing that, she also ended up offending a lot of people. Now, in the process, she became a bit of a divisive figure. Now, as HRD Minister, that's perhaps the worst thing that you can do, because this is a ministry where you have to carry along various people. You have to carry along state education ministers, vice chancellors, principals, and you have to work with people. And that's where I think she was slightly found out. So it was a bit of a learning experience for her. The first time that she was a minister, immediately elevated to cabinet rank, that itself had led to an element of envy and jealousy within perhaps some of her peer group. I think, therefore, these 2 years will be seen as a learning experience for Smriti Irani. And maybe she is good enough to learn from it and come back even stronger. I have no doubt, as I keep maintaining, that Smriti Irani will still have some major role to play in the next 12 months leading up to this Uttar Pradesh election. There has even been talk, and you know this, that she could be projected as the face of the UP campaign.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's going to happen, because by projecting her as a face for the UP campaign, the BJP also runs a risk. But I do believe that she will be a star campaigner for the party. She is still being positioned as a politician who will be expected to take on Rahul Gandhi once again in Amethi in 2019. She keeps visiting Amethi. So I do believe that these 2 years have been a learning experience for Smriti Irani.
Absolutely.
And a bit of a wake-up call that in politics sometimes you have to know when to step back. And maybe she will learn that in her new portfolio of textiles.
Very important there, Rajdeep. Do stay on with us. Brajesh, let me bring this one across to you. From Rajdeep's analysis, what I can deduct at this moment is that there is a crisis within the BJP as far as Smriti Irani is concerned. As we try to understand the reasons why this change could have happened, I want to know from you that is there a sense within the BJP that she's too good? Sometimes the problem with being too good with your work is that you're not used well. Right. Similarly, is this the case with Smriti Irani? That in the eyes of the Prime Minister, or at least because she was given this responsibility initially, there was a perception that she is very good and she will be able to carry it off. But then she was considered too good to be used well because immediately you had all the people who got offended. The reason why I'm asking you this is because hypothetically, if she were to be presented as the UP face, will it not offend so many people who have been working on the ground? For instance, Mr. Rajnath Singh, who's from the state, who might definitely want to be Chief Minister.
Well, Sanket, there are two answers to this. A, I completely agree with Rajdeep that there were several leaders within the BJP who were extremely envious of the kind of trajectory she had once BJP came into power in 2014. Her first stint was as a cabinet minister, and that too, she was holding one of the most important portfolio, that is the HRD Ministry. And her closeness to the Prime Minister, her closeness to a powerful section of Sangh was extremely envious to several factions within the BJP. But you know, Sanket, I mean, is that the sole reason or which led to her ouster from the HRD and she was sent back to textile? I honestly don't think so. The second reason is, Sanket, that 2 months back, I broke a story where we carried a story in which we said that, you know, Smriti Irani is one of the front runners for the post of Chief Ministership of Uttar Pradesh, and the BJP was considering 4 to 5 names, in which her name was one of the most prominent names. Rajnath Singh's name being touted as the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh was part mischief on the part of us, or part rumor mongering from a section of BJP itself, because Rajnath Singh had made it very clear to Prime Minister as well as to the power to be that he was not at all interested. He is not at all interested in going back to Uttar Pradesh because he knows how it works out, and if given his own situation, precarious situation within the party, his intra-party relationship, he knows for sure that if the BJP does not perform well, it would be kind of literal curtains on his career in the central, in his stint as Home Minister of India. So, see, they were very clear about it. But what my bigger question, Sanket, is why, if the BJP wanted Smriti Irani to be the face or be the star campaigner of Uttar Pradesh, where was the need for this humiliation? If you remember, just before Delhi election, when the second cabinet expansion was done, Dr. Harshvardhan, who was the health minister, he was removed from health ministry and he was made in charge of science and technology. And you know, and there was no explanation given by party as to what led to this downgrading of one of the most important, powerful leader of which the BJP has in Delhi. The same case, all this could have been very easily done without going in for the embarrassment. If you read the headlines, you know, every single newspaper, everybody is, you know, talking only about one particular change in the cabinet, and that is of Smriti Irani. So where was the need for the party to get her this kind of bad press, and then in order to project her as the face of the party in Uttar Pradesh?
At least on India Today, I don't think this is bad press.
Somebody who watches the party closely, I'm completely amazed.
We are discussing an important aspect, perhaps the most important aspect of the cabinet.
Yes, I agree that.
Yes, that's true.
Theoretically, I agree that, you know, I mean, there is no such thing as bad press. But given her kind of adversarial relationship with media or most of the faction, you know, her being removed from HRD to textile can only be seen in one context, that she has been downgraded. And there is no other way to look at it. And you know, I mean, sources close to her also revealed to her.
Let's hope, Brajesh, through the course of the day, by speaking to BJP leaders, you are able to find out and decode this big mystery that you seem to claim, that this is a big mystery why this has happened. Let's hope you are able to decode this. We'll leave the Smriti Irani aspect, of the cabinet rejig thoroughly. All that happened related to the Ministry of Human Resource Development. We've spoken to the new minister also. Let's now move on to the other factors of this particular cabinet rejig. We've got Rajdeep as well as Brajesh with us. Let's quickly take a look at the key takeaways from this particular rejig. Number one is that Modi is his own man. It is very clear. It is pretty obvious at this moment that he is his own man. He takes his decisions, and it's very clear that this cabinet rejig has no other influence but him. Takeaway number two, controversy does not pay for Narendra Modi. So if you are silently working in your ministry, it might help. Takeaway number three, efficiency blended with caste. So it's a smart mix here of politics, where there is efficiency, yes, but those traditional tools are also not completely ridiculed. Needful full-time finance minister. Needed full-time finance minister, and that is why you saw Arun Jaitley being relieved of his charge of information and broadcasting. And takeaway number 5, talent deficit in the cabinet, which was kind of addressed. Whether it has fully been addressed or not is something which would be interesting. Now let's quickly take a look at the top gainers and top losers, and we'll fire those graphics as we go across to Rajdeep at this moment. Rajdeep, the important point over here is this. Narendra Modi government, when they came to power, said that there will be minimum government, maximum governance. Whatever happened to that claim?
Look, at the end of the day, Narendra Modi is a politician, and certainly in the expansion, this was a very traditional, almost Congress-style expansion, where you had to accommodate various interest groups, regions, caste. There's a strong backward caste component in the expansion. With an eye on the Uttar Pradesh elections, you drafted in Dalit leaders like Ramdas Athavale, who certainly in my book don't stand for either energy or efficiency, the criteria which Mr. Modi has often spoken about, but they had to be accommodated. So I think there was an accommodative exercise when it came to the expansion. I think the signal was sent out much more in the reshuffle, where clearly a few seeming non-performers, Sadanand Gowda, for example, in law ministry, question mark over him, moved out. Ravi Shankar Prasad moved to law, but lost communications as a result. Remember, the call drop issue has still not been sorted out as far as telecommunications is concerned. Chaudhry Birinder Singh, question mark over whether the government has done enough on rural development, moved out. So I think some signals were sent out. I think a sixth takeaway, or really an important takeaway that maybe we missed out, was the fact that the RSS, where it wanted, has been able to get its way. If efficiency and energy were the sole criteria, then why are the likes of Giriraj Singh or Mr. Balian still in this government, or Jyoti Niranjan? They've also been controversial. They've also made inflammatory remarks, but they had the backing, I think, of the Sangh. So Mr. Modi could not act against them. So there are certain limits. Mahesh Sharma has not exactly distinguished himself as a culture minister, but this is a key ministry which the RSS wants to control. Mr. Mahesh Sharma still continues. So there are various other subtexts also here, apart from the big takeaways. But I think the message that the Prime Minister has clearly sent out is that even if you are very close to me, or considered or perceived very close to me, that doesn't mean that I will not assess you and possibly move you out. I have often been told by friends in Gujarat that Mr. Modi's only friend is his shadow. Mr. Modi trusts no one else but his shadow. And I think we've seen that, barring Amit Shah to some extent, no one else has had any kind of major influence on this cabinet reshuffle. This is very much Mr. Modi at work, along with a few close aides that he may have in the PMO. They've gone through a rigorous assessment exercise, which is why several so-called political heavyweights have also been cut down to size in this cabinet reshuffle.
Absolutely. And now, before we let you go, Rajdeep, very quickly, if you could tell us a little bit about the imprint or the footprint of the state called Uttar Pradesh in this new cabinet rejig. How strong has that been? Because that was a big talking point initially.
It was a talking point. There are only 3 new inductees from Uttar Pradesh, but I think what all 3 are individuals who are seen to belong to communities that the BJP believes will have an influential role in its attempt to capture power in Uttar Pradesh. The likes of an Anupriya Patel from the Kurmi community, Krishna Rai. You've got people who have been brought in are either OBCs or non-Jatav Dalits. I think somewhere that is going to be the BJP's core strategy in Uttar Pradesh this time. How do you win over? They believe that the forward castes have no option but to stay with the BJP. They are consciously wooing the non-Yadav backward caste and the non-Jatav Dalits. I would not say that a cabinet expansion really is going to achieve that, but they've at least sent out that kind of a signal, along with the kind of state leadership that the party now has in Uttar Pradesh. My larger point, though, is that I think Narendra Modi is someone who is constantly keeping his ministers on edge. Even yesterday, I'm told that when he met the new ministers, he warned them that you can celebrate today, from tomorrow it's back to work. And he's constantly telling them in a way that big boss is watching. And if you don't perform, or if you are seen to get into controversies or become larger than life, then big boss will act. Now, I have a few question marks also at times on this. For example, Mr. Modi informally had suggested that those over 75 would slowly be moved out, or some kind of a Margdarshak Mandal, or moved to governorship. But he hasn't touched Najma Heptullah, and he hasn't touched Kalraj Mishra. He couldn't touch Kalraj Mishra because there's an election in Uttar Pradesh. He didn't touch Najma Heptullah because there are very few minority faces that the BJP has available to it. So I think he does make compromises. He does at times, as I said with the case of Ramdas Athawale, he doesn't exactly represent efficiency. He does make compromises, but he also sends strong signals, like to the Shiv Sena. The Shiv Sena wanted a cabinet berth. Mr. Modi made it clear, take an MOS, take it or leave it. That's Mr. Modi for you. So there is an element of compromise, and there is the element of the big boss also at work. That's what we've seen here in this cabinet reshuffle, and therefore I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. To say truly that this cabinet is going to galvanize the government into new energies or new efficiencies, I think would be blinding ourselves to the reality that actually there is a talent deficit in this government.
Absolutely.
And that is the one big disappointment, that Mr. Modi hasn't really brought in any remarkably new face like he did at least last time with the Suresh Prabhu and Manohar Parrikar. There was a sense of enthusiasm when they were brought in. Please tell me who out of the new entrants one can be truly enthused about. Anil Dave, is he the kind who's really going to be seen as someone who's going to dramatically alter the Ministry of Environment? And let me make a point that even in the Ministry of Environment, Prakash Javadekkar's record is not entirely spotless. Many green activists have said that all he was doing was signing various environmental clearances, often to the benefit of big corporates. And many are wondering whether he's been rewarded for that.
Very true.
So let's be clear, when we go on about efficiency and energy, I think there is still a question mark when Mr. Modi talks about it. I think he needs to do much more. But I will say that unlike Manmohan Singh, who was never his own man, Mr. Modi is his own man. Manmohan Singh could not choose his cabinet. Narendra Modi can. And that's the big difference between the two.
Absolutely. Rajdeep Sardesai, many thanks for joining us this morning with your analysis. Let's now quickly cut across live. Brajesh, I'll come across to you. But it seems that the new HRD Minister has gotten cracking. He's holding a press conference at this moment. Let's cut across live.
And if we want to build a modern India of 21st century, we have to revolutionize our education. Education must become more meaningful, and also the quality of education needs to be improved. मैं हमेशा ये मानता हूं कि विद्यार्थी केंद्रित शिक्षा होनी चाहिए और अध्यापक उसके बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका है। मैं सभी अध्यापकों को वंदन भी करता हूं और उनको विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं कि हम सब मिलके एक नए भारत की शिक्षा का नक्शा तैयार करेंगे। द एजुकेशन हैज टू बी स्टूडेंट सेंट्रिक. इट हैज टू बिल्ड कैरेक्टर कैपेसिटी इनटू द स्टूडेंट्स. एंड व्हाई poor parents are doing their best to give the best education to their kids, because they think that education is the key for development, and it is. And therefore, we have to improve the quality of education. That's the challenge real. And that's the emphasis of Modi government. Modi ji has a vision for education, because that only builds up the capacities for the nation. And therefore, I'll consult, after taking brief, I'll consult with everybody, because this is in a way not a BJP subject. This is not a party subject. This is everybody's subject. It touches everybody's heart, and everybody has one opinion or the other for education. And I value all opinions. And at the same time, we'll have larger discussion. Always my doors will be open for any new ideas. And at the same time, after taking proper briefing and discussing, then we'll come out with our roadmap. And I'll discuss with Smriti ji also, who has taken a very good initiatives, many very good initiatives in a 2 years tenure. So we'll build upon good initiatives, and we'll have a roadmap clearly after a process. And therefore, I think I was part of the student movement. For last 40 years, I'm connected with education. my mother, who is 92 years old mother, and she stays with me. She is my first teacher, primary teacher she was, and therefore I value teachers. I think that teachers can make the country proud, and we have all, it has to be a student-centric. And I was part of the JP movement. We went to jail fighting it out for students' rights and for many other educational problems. And thereafter I was representing graduates in Pune University also, and representing graduate in Maharashtra Legislative Council for 12 years. After that, even in while I was heading the Planning Commission in Maharashtra, we laid more emphasis on education. And now here also in this central, when I was MP, I was part of the HRD committee, and when there were 10 new legislation, we discussed a lot. And I believe that discussion, ideas have a place in changing the scenario, and we all together can improve the quality of education. That is the thrust, and that's where we are going ahead with. And I can assure you that media also can play very important role. Many media houses are playing important role in reaching out as far as education is concerned. And I have many initiatives in mind. After we giving final shape, we will definitely take media also as a partner in progress.
सर एक सवाल सर, नामांकन प्रक्रिया तमाम यूनिवर्सिटी में अलग अलग कर सकते हैं?
नहीं, वो मुझे पता नहीं भाई, मुझे पता नहीं जिसमें मैं क्या मराठी।
All right, the new Minister for Human Resource Development, they're speaking, holding a press conference. He spoke to India Today also exclusively. We're going to play out that interview also in just a short moment. But in the meanwhile, well, Smriti Irani turns out to be the biggest loser and Prakash Javadekar the biggest gainer in the cabinet reshuffle. Through this rejig, the Prime Minister has apparently sent a strong signal to his ministers, making it clear that there is no alternative to performance.
"19 new ministers inducted in the Modi cabinet. And 5 old faces dropped for their non-performance. The message is loud and clear. Doers and performers will be rewarded, while the non-performers will have to go. The big takeaways from the cabinet rejig are that the Prime Minister is his own man, who knows to take hard decisions, even if that means sacrificing those who are close to him. The rejig clearly indicates that the Prime Minister does not like his ministers to be in spotlight for the wrong reasons and wants them to concentrate on work. The PM has sent out a strong signal that he is keen on balancing caste with efficiency. While caste can get you a portfolio, but the position can't be taken for granted. To revive the economy, Modi has pinned immense hope on his finance minister, relieving Arun Jaitley from the additional portfolios he held. In the new cabinet, however, there is also a talent deficit. While Modi has yet again firmly established his command over the cabinet, Prakash Javadekar tops the list of gainers with promotion to a cabinet rank of HRD Ministry. Piyush Goyal has been rewarded with additional portfolio of mines. PM has entrusted Anand Kumar with the key Parliamentary Affairs Ministry, as the government is set to lock horns with the opposition over GST. Former journalist M.J. Akbar has been brought in as Junior Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Delhi leader Vijay Goyal has been given plum post of Sports Minister. But there are those who have lost out. The biggest loser is Smriti Irani, who will now head the low-key Textile Ministry. It's a demotion second time round for Sadananda Gowda, who has now been moved out of Law Ministry. Controversial former Army Chief V.K. Singh has lost additional portfolio on Northeast region. In a major setback, Jayant Sinha has now been moved out of Finance Ministry to Civil Aviation.
But it's not just people within the BJP, the allies are also not happy, and one particular unhappy ally, Brijesh, is the Shiv Sena. Now, Shiv Sena in their mouthpiece Samna have lashed out at the Modi government cabinet reshuffle. They said that the rejig is not NDA's but BJP's decision alone. Brijesh, can you hear me?
Sanket, can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, my question to you is, at this moment it appears that that the Shiv Sena seems to be very unhappy with the way this cabinet rejig has happened. In fact, they say that this is more of a BJP cabinet rejig rather than being an NDA cabinet rejig.
Well, Sanket, I mean, you know, BJP and Shiv Sena's love-hate relationship has been going on for a while now. And if you remember, you know, in the last 6 months, they have taken a pretty aggressive stand in the Maharashtra State Assembly, which has led to a counter-strengthening or hardening of stand by the BJP itself. And this is the reason why this time Prime Minister Narendra Modi refused to budge on accommodation of a cabinet minister rank to Shiv Sena. So I think both parties are trying to send very clear message to each other as to, you know, the extent to which BJP is willing to yield to Shiv Sena and not beyond that. And a clear message has gone to Shiv Sena. In fact, you know, there was a meeting between Devendra Fadnavis and Amit Shah just a day before the expansion took place, and they were closeted for more than 40 minutes. So I think this particular angle must have surfaced in their conversation, and this is the reason why the BJP, as these leaders say, that they have just shown the place of Shiv Sena in this whole NDA scheme of things.
Is Shiv Sena going to agree to this? And if they are so hurt, are they going to come out of this relationship? Because it's very clear that the BJP does not give much heed to what ails Shiv Sena at this moment. All right, let's now take a look at this presentation that we had prepared, where our consulting editor, Rajdeep Sardesai, took us through the key takeaways of this particular cabinet reshuffle.
Unlike Manmohan Singh, who was under coalition pressures, this is a Prime Minister who likes to call the shots, even if it means in the process that people who are considered close to him are caught in the crossfire. Smriti Irani, for example, HRD Minister, now pushed to the relatively unimportant textile ministry. Arun Jaitley, who's lost his INB portfolio and is being asked now to focus on finance. Venkaiah Naidu, removed from parliamentary affairs and brought into INB. So clearly a signal being sent out that this is a Prime Minister who's very much his own man, who doesn't refrain from taking certain hard, big decisions if the occasion so warrants. Takeaway number 2. Controversy doesn't pay if you are a minister in Narendra Modi's government. He doesn't like people being in the headlines too often. Then whether it's a member of parliament like Subramaniam Swamy or whether it is an HRD minister like Smriti Irani, clearly controversy doesn't pay if you are a minister in Mr. Modi's cabinet. Takeaway number 3. The Prime Minister has tried to balance efficiency with caste consideration. Certainly in the expansion, which was rather a dull exercise, none of these 19 ministers are going to set the Yamuna on the fire. There was a lot of caste considerations that were brought in play. On the other hand, efficiency has also mattered. Sadanand Gowda moved out of law because he was not seen to be efficient enough. There was Jitendra Singh moved out of rural development because he was seen to be a relative non-performer. Except for Radha Mohan Singh, who remains in agriculture, and Ramvilas Paswan, who's an ally, and Ashok Gajapati Raju, who's also an ally, non-performers have been sent a firm signal. So efficiency balanced with caste consideration, which is why even someone like Ramdas Athavale has been made a minister because he's a Dalit face. Takeaway number 4, the finance ministry needs a full-time finance minister. There's been this massive overhaul in this reshuffle in the finance ministry. Jayant Sinha moving on from MOS finance to civil aviation, and Arun Jaitley being told that 24/7 now he will have to be the country's finance minister at the moment. And the takeaway number 5 at the end of the day, I believe, is whether we like it or not, there is a talent deficit at some level. And Mr. Modi therefore has, some would say, perhaps erred in not bringing in talent from the outside. And that is one possible complaint that some would have about this reshuffle and expansion. But broadly, I think the picture is clear. When you have a majority government, when you have a strong Prime Minister like Narendra Modi, don't take him for granted. If you don't perform, or if you get into controversies, or if you're seen to be someone who isn't really up to the task, then you have to be prepared
for a thorough performance review, and you could even lose your portfolio.
Okay, let's quickly take a look at the top 5 gainers and the top 5 losers as far as this cabinet reshuffle is concerned. And this is going to sum up what has actually happened. The top 5 gainers first. No prizes for guessing. Mr. Prakash Javadekar, who has been promoted to a cabinet rank and has been given the most important human resource development portfolio. He gets the HRD portfolio. Number 2, Piyush Goyal. He's gotten independent charge of mines as well. He was handling an important power ministry. He's retained power, coal and renewable energy. Takeaway number 3, gainer number 3, Anand Kumar. He gets parliamentary affairs ministry also. He retains chemicals and fertilizers. Big face from Karnataka. MJ Akbar, new entrant, becomes the MOS of external affairs. Big boot for General VK Singh. Vijay Goyal, the man we just heard right now, taking independent charge of youth affairs and sports, gets MOS water resources, river development and Ganga rejuvenation. Remember, he was a significant minister in the Vajpayee regime also. The top 5 losers, again no prizes for guessing. Dropped as the HRD Minister, Smriti Irani, the big headline in all newspapers. She's been moved to Textile Ministry, and we by no means are suggesting that textile is any inferior. Mr. Arun Jaitley, relieved from the INB portfolio. Technically not a loser, but relieved from the portfolio because he's handling finance now full-time. Sadanand Gowda moved out of the Law Ministry. Remember, he was a railway minister, moved to Law Ministry, now has been moved to the Ministry of Statistics. Number 4, as we discussed, VK Singh has now been given the Northeast portfolio, in fact, has been taken away from him. He's been dropped as the Ministry of Statistics. In fact, he retains MOS External Affairs. That's the latest as far as Mr. VK Singh is concerned. And Jayant Sinha has lost the post of MOS Finance, which was it was being considered that he was doing a good job, but however, this was changed and he's been assigned the job of Minister of State for Civil Aviation under Mr. Ashok Gajapati Raju. So these are the top 5 gainers and top 5 losers as far as the big cabinet rejig is concerned. We're stopping for a short break here on First.